Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us on our latest Twitter Spaces chat. I'm Sophie Brannan, I'm the head of SEO here at Absolute Digital, and today I'm joined by Chief Strategy Officer at From the Future, amongst many other roles, the wonderful Nick Eubanks. So thank you so much for joining us, Nick.
Thank you so much, Sophie. I'm really very excited to be here.
Yeah, us too. So today's chat is going to be all about brand positioning. So we're going to kick straight off with the first question. What does it mean to create a strong brand positioning?
Uh, if I had to try to answer an innocuous question, a question as innocuous as that one, it would be, I think, the best evidence of creating a strong brand is when you don't have to tell somebody what you do. When there's a knowledge or awareness of specialization, because you've done such a good job positioning yourself as an expert, positioning yourself as having a very specific skill set, and it's usually best done by not only defining the messaging, which is one of my favorite exercises, right? Is I love working on helping agencies and marketing professionals figure out what it is that they do that's special, what makes them different, and then identifying like a lot of the exact language that their target audience would actually be using. It seems like such a simple and like common sense thing to think about. It's like, well, yeah, of course, like you want to use the exact language and nomenclature that your target audience does. And everybody may say that, but the amount of people that actually do it, I think, is so far and few between. Understanding like that, it's not. I'll give you an example, and this is not me making fun of Absolute in any way. But if you want to join the noise in the digital marketing agency space, make sure that you position yourself as an award-winning agency, so you can be an award-winning agency just like every other agency.
Yeah.
So like it's finding ways to stand out and be different, right? So if everybody's award-winning, then nobody's award-winning. It's the same adage of like, you're unique just like everybody else. So I think it's taking that additional step to really understand like what is it that we do better, or what is it that we do different. It doesn't even have to necessarily be better. Maybe you think it's better and everybody else doesn't, but it's different. You need to be able to pull out that thing that's different, and then finding the language that the people use to describe it is another one that I think is really important. So, we found out, I wanted to be everything to everybody when FTF started. I had this idea because I was in ecom at the time. I was like, oh, we're just going to work with ecom brands. And that was cool in 2014. But I realized 2015, 2016 that, there were, at that point, even early on, there were starting to be all these other agencies that came out that were specializing in e-commerce. And it wasn't a USP any longer. My unique sales proposition was no longer, oh, well, I do this just for e-commerce. And look, I have e-commerce experience because I own an e-commerce company. You started seeing that pop up everywhere else. And then it was like, well, shit, that's actually not enough to be a brand.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that was a long-winded answer.
No, cool. I love it. I love it. I mean, in terms of like strategies and how you find that USP and what is different and how you then position your brand off of it, is it just a matter of sitting down and thinking about it, or is there certain tactics that you typically like to use to get there?
Honestly, I feel like it's really it just comes from so many repeat conversations with your existing clients and with your target clients. It's because you have to be able to latch on to the patterns. Like it's understanding. Trying to give like a really good example. What's the best one? Oh, I'll give you, here's a great example. So I have a client. I have an agency that I'm working with that we've been going through the process of rebranding and really carving out like a very specific section of the market just for them.
Yeah.
And what it is when I came in, they were working with a bunch of different companies, but the ones that they had the most success with, and the ones that they seemed to have the easiest time to sell into, were car dealerships. And so we started to focus a lot of their brand positioning around just selling to car dealerships, because the problems and the solutions that car dealership owners and the people who are responsible for marketing car dealerships are most interested or concerned with, they tend to actually be a specific set. And my favorite part about going really deep within a specific niche is you begin to pull out these like weird acronyms and these chunks of language that you really don't make sense to anybody else. So in the car dealership world, there are GMB cars for sale. is what it's known as. And if you're deep into local SEO, you might know what that is. But if you're not, if you've never done local SEO for a car dealership, you probably have no effing clue what GMB Cars for Sale is, or the fact that it's actually its own like dedicated product with its own feed management and its own. It's like all of this whole set of nuances. In that same respect, there are these acronyms and even some specific names that car dealerships use that don't mean anything to anybody else except the marketing manager or the like the dealership, like the individual location dealership manager. These would be things like VLSGs. Like, what the hell is a VLSG? Oh, it's a vehicle listing and sales generated page. That doesn't mean anything to anybody. But if you talk to anybody who runs a car dealership, they know what a VLS or a VLSG is. They know. You can talk to them about, hey, how do you guys manage to sell your fixed ops? Like Sophie, do you know what fixed ops are?
No idea.
Yeah, and you shouldn't, because who the hell, like, it doesn't mean anything to anybody except the people it means everything to. So fixed ops are like, that's their maintenance contracts, their oil changes, when they sell tires. It's fixed operations, not car sales. And it's a big part of operating revenue and income. And it's a pain point for car dealerships to figure out how to sell more of those services, because it's not as straightforward as just selling cars. Another one, just to ride out the car, because any time you break into a really specific niche, you dive all the way in and you start gathering this type of information, almost without fail, you find all of these types of acronyms in this type of language.
Yeah.
I'm trying to remember, there was we talked about fixed ops, VLSG. What was the other one? Inventory marketing. That's how most of these car dealers, the people who are in charge of actually making sure that there's cars being sold every single day, that's how most of them think about them. They think about it as, well, I need to do better inventory marketing. So if you're coming to them and you're pitching them, hey, look, we do SEO, we get you ranked higher on Google, we'll get you more traffic. You're talking about alleviating potentially symptoms, but you're not actually talking about delivering the solution that they're looking for. What these car dealerships care most about is, how do I increase sales of fixed ops? Who's going to do my VLS management? Because I need a company that knows what that is, understands how that works, knows how to interact with those feeds, isn't going to screw up my GMB Cars for Sale.
Yeah.
And on top of all of it, what you're talking about to these dealerships is inventory marketing. It's, here's how I'm going to market the inventory that you have. You've got cars that are sitting in your lot that you need to sell. Everything that we do is all backs into inventory marketing. We're an inventory marketing solution for car dealerships. That's going to perk up a lot more ears and get you a lot more conversations than just saying, hey, we do SEO. Yes, we've worked with people like you before, but we do, you on your website, what do we do? Oh, we're an award-winning SEO agency. Look, we've got clients that are, we worked with the car dealership before, and we also worked with this business loan company and this realtor and this pizza restaurant. Doing everything for everybody is a great way to alienate yourself and become part of the noise and actually increase the amount of competitors that you have. When you're a specialist marketing agency that only does marketing for car dealerships that have physical locations, that have actual rooftops, you can create an entire playbook about servicing just that industry. You can build in automation. You can build tooling to help increase your profits and alleviate the stress on your resources and your team members. The number one pushback that I get, resistance that I get when I start, trying to pitch agency owners on really going hyper within a niche is they're like, well, I'm going to alienate all of my current clients and my current customers. What about them? How many times, so once you guys have signed a new client for Absolute and you've started working together, after the first month, how many times do you think that client ever visits your website again?
Probably very few, if at all.
I've asked over 100 agency clients across 20 different agencies in the past probably 18 months. The answer has consistently been zero. Why would I ever go back to an agency site once I've hired them? They don't give a shit. It's all just on the acquisition front. So you don't have to worry about your marketing actually alienating your existing clients. What you do have to worry about is the inability for you to have a significant increase in your conversion rate and significantly less direct competitors by going super deep on a niche.
So what about when you, obviously going into that hyper niche is really, really important, like you said, but what about when you're trying to build maybe a startup or something like that? You're super, super niche, and things like your generic marketing, your SEO, your PPC, there's not a lot of volume behind it. Is it still worth leaning into that niche or going a bit wider?
No, I'm a very big proponent of going niche as soon as possible. One of the things that I didn't I realized this myself probably in 2016 or so, because the first version of the FTF website and was, again, like I was saying, it was ecom focused, but the product, the thing that people were coming to me directly for first, first and foremost, more than anything else, was they wanted a keyword matrix, which was just this product that I had created back in 2013, which was it was just a deliverable format for keyword research. But I was getting all of these leads for keyword research, and that they usually would upsell. But I didn't realize then what I know now, which is what I should have done was just literally positioned us as the keyword research agency, and it would be like, well, that's just a product. Like you can't build an entire agency with retainer models off of just selling that keyword research. Not true. There's 15 different ways to slice that product. But what you can become is you can become the owners of that specific process. And when you have ubiquity that begins to be developed around your brand, and that brand itself, like, you remove competitors. Like, perfect example, like if I was like, all right, hey, Sophie, I want you to go hire the absolute best, the best provider, whether it's a tool, a person, or an agency for keyword research, what would you say?
How? What do I look at?
Like, or who? Like, yeah,
Yeah.
they're nobody owns that brand still, even to this day. There's not like a keyword research agency. I think there's some people doing some incredible things with some incredible processes and some great tools, but like there is not somebody that just owns that space. There's people that are starting to own digital PR for consumer brands, that own content marketing for D2C, that own the best SEOs for B2B SaaS. Like, these are niches that are even still a little bit bigger, that I think people could even still go tighter on. Like,
Yeah.
B2B SaaS as a niche for an agency is already a thing, and it's becoming more and more established. What I haven't seen yet is digital marketing agencies that only work on fintech, that only work in ed tech, that only work on higher education. Like, there's still, I think, so many opportunities. And I think the other common misconception is that there's the total addressable market, if you go that niche, isn't big enough. It's like, well, there's just not enough companies for that. If you want to grow faster than you've ever grown before, with the highest conversion rates and the biggest engagements, go all the way deep into something. Like, do marketing just for law firms that have less than 10 lawyers. Do marketing just for single location dental offices. Like, go crazy deep, and you will have such an easier time selling, because the people that you're like, when you talk to the right people, they are the right person. Like, you'll only be talking to the right people. You won't waste your time talking to anybody that's not already sold and doesn't already recognize your level of much deeper expertise.
Yeah, it's looking more at the quality of it rather than, just bringing in as much as you possibly can.
It just removes the competitors too. Like, it's amazing how well it works, and because you just you stand out. There's no longer noise. You don't compete with the same agencies you used to compete with, because unless they have a completely focused individual offering, you're different, you're better, you're specialized.
For sure. But do you ever reach a peak though? If you go too niche, are you going to run out of business?
I haven't found it yet.
Good to know. And in terms of then reviewing that brand positioning, because I know a lot of businesses might relook at obviously rebranding and repositioning their entire service offerings and things like that. Is there like a set amount of times you should do that? Is there kind of any rules or any tips of how and when you should review your brand positioning?
I think, probably. I mean, it's going to change based on speed of market and market trends. But I would think, like, any agency should probably do a check against their brand at least once a year. Like, hey, let's look over the past 12 months at who we've worked on. Like, do we have is there a centralization within any of our current services? Like, I just went through this yesterday with somebody where we looked at the past 12 months, and we categorized all of their clients into like an industry and a sub industry, and then we totaled all the revenue across the past 12 months. And what we found out was about 60% of their total revenue, the biggest concentration across all of their clients, was in medical. Like, they do a great job at acquiring and retaining clients that are in the medical space. Higher price point, longer sales cycle. They are just very good at dealing with those types of clients. And so my recommendation to them was, you guys need to completely rebrand as a specialist marketing agency that just does lead gen for companies in the medical space. And they were resistant, as most are. It's like, well, we've got clients that do all these other things. What about them? Doesn't matter. You continue to service those clients. It's fine. You will acquire. What seems to continue to happen is when agencies are willing to go deep on the specialization, their
new client acquisition within that specialized space outpaces all of their remnant existing clients, usually in less than 6 months. And you'll have replaced so much more. You'll replace new business you'll replace all of your existing business with new business that's actually a better fit. And what seems to be the case is you'll often find yourself turning away new business that doesn't actually fit within the new brand direction.
Yeah, for sure. That makes total sense. And where are people going wrong when it comes to developing their brand positioning, other than obviously not going hyper niche?
I'd say there's two big things there. One is continuing to use fucking buzzwords. I'm sorry, I don't know if I can swear on here.
You
or not,
can
but,
swear. It's 18 plus, I think.
continuing to use these ridiculous buzzwords versus plain language. Like the simpler, it's really difficult to make complex things simple.
Yeah.
And the simpler your language, like the easier you can make that language to understand, and the more you're willing to use the language of your customers, the acronyms, the euphemisms, like bring that stuff into your actual market messaging. I think is the biggest piece, right? So simplify, don't go over complex. Don't if you see anybody else using the even similar brand positioning to you, it means that you need to change yours. You need to stand out. You need to be different. There's the last stat I saw was there's like over 3,500 new digital agencies created I think it was in the US, it was every year.
Wow.
I can't even imagine what that number is on a global scale. Like there's so much noise out there. Everybody's doing the same thing. Like from a marketing perspective, like you have to find something that you do different and find an audience that you can do it for and just match their language.
Yeah. And I mean, aside from industry specific, like let's talk agencies, let's talk obviously going into the hyper niches. If there's that many new agencies starting, are they going to run out of industries? Is there other ways that they can then define that brand positioning?
Well, so some of my favorite statistics on the agency front is that 90% of agencies fail in their first 5 years. So 90% of agencies that are starting this year will not be around in 5 years. And then of those 10% that do make it, they make it past that 5 years mark without having to go out of business or go take another job. 90%, or it was like 95% of those, that remaining 10% that do make it, will never make it over $3 million in annual turnover. Just so like it's because I think it's in large part because of the specialization. There's a bunch of other operational and financial strategy things that I think really hold back a lot of agencies from cracking that sort of $3 million a year revenue threshold. But more times than not, I think it's just they're trying to do everything for everybody. They're having to commoditize their offering, cut prices. They're not able to bring on, afford. They don't have the profits to invest in growth and invest in better talent, invest in bigger campaigns to acquire bigger clients. All of the things that become sort of a self-fulfilling prophecy for stalled growth.
Yeah. And I mean, is the importance of brand positioning going to change? Is it going to get less? Is it going to get more?
The more people are entering, the more people we see entering any market, I think the more important a brand becomes. It becomes your best defense for standing out against your competition. The best client you could ever get is one that comes to you ready to buy, that you don't actually have to sell. They're aware of who you are, what you do, who you've done it for. You have the reputation. You're already qualified. They're in your target audience mix for your specialty. Those folks usually come with their hands out, or sorry, their credit cards out.
Definitely. I mean, in terms of key metrics to look at in measuring your brand positioning, away from how much money you're making, is it looking at kind of how visible you are in the online space, obviously depending on what you're in, or how do you measure that success?
Conversion rate is my favorite. So like what I do with anybody I'm working with is we map all of the stages in their sales funnel. And the average agency, the easiest way to think about mapping in a sales funnel for an agency is in 10 stages. With 10% increased in probability of close for each stage. So lead in, like you get a lead in the door, it's 10% probability that you'll close that lead. And you want to update these so they actually become accurate probability percentages, so you can actually project revenue and project production hours within the next 30 to 60 days, depending on your sales cycle. But being able to actually start and look at, like, we know that as of last quarter, 50% of every proposals we sent out closed. And this quarter, we're closing 60%. That, in my mind, would be a great lagging indicator to be able to look at, are we doing, it's either your brand got stronger or the pitch like within your brand, as part of your brand, has gotten much better. And that's more so the case, I think, in terms of what I'm seeing is the folks that are making the investments in the specialization that are like, we're putting all this money into, we've redesigned our site, we've changed all of our messaging, and we're only working with these types of clients. We're only speaking to these types of clients. These are the strategies that we're writing about, the playbooks that we're bringing to market, the case studies that we're publishing. It's all within this specific niche. Is that working? Yes or no? If you're pitching more and more of those clients and your conversion rates are going up across the board through your sales cycle, that's probably the most direct attribution line that I could at least think of in terms of measurement.
Okay. And in the next 5 to 10 years' time, is brand positioning going to be more important?
Do you think there's going to be more or less companies?
Probably more.
I would probably say it's probably
more
going to
important.
be more important.
Definitely. So what advice would you give to a new business versus a 10-year-old business, as an example, when it comes to creating that brand positioning? Is there a difference depending on the age of the business?
Well, the nice part about doing it from scratch is you can potentially hop onto like a bleeding edge, right? So like I'm extremely tempted right now to create a new agency just for marketing NFTs. It's probably not a great idea. I think I have one too many things on my plate, but like the idea of being able to create something that's sort of on the bleeding edge that I believe will pop, that we're already seeing tremendous demand for, that's very exciting. And like I brought, especially because these aren't recorded. I was in a board meeting a couple weeks ago where I brought the idea to my board at FTF that was like, hey, I think we should really build like a cryptocurrency practice area because I see tremendous demand. I don't see this demand going down in any way. I think we're only going to see increasing demand, increasing budget, really cool projects. And there's a chance for us to invest in building this practice area now. So when this thing pops next year, Q1, Q2, we have the brand story, we have the experience, we have the logos. They weren't interested because it is a distraction in that sense. So I think that's where it gets difficult in terms of like you're a more established agency. You've got your processes, you've got your team, everything's sort of entrenched. Having to try to pivot, especially to a new practice area that's outside that of what the agency is built on, I think is extremely risky and very it's way more difficult. And again, my board is much older, smarter, more experienced people than myself. So it was probably a good decision to stay the course and stay focused on what FTF does best. But that's something that, again, like that risk is not there with starting something brand new. So like I think you can take a bigger risk. Like I could start, if I was going to start brand new, I could build the whole practice area, and do get the test results, and potentially pitch companies or brands that I was really excited to work with to test this out and see if it works. And if it doesn't work, if in 3 months I'm out of savings and I'm not able to sustain any kind of reoccurring revenue or client acquisition, then I failed and I can pivot again. Hopefully without risking the livelihoods of anybody else but myself.
Let's talk a little bit more about that risk, mainly for more established businesses. If they were to completely reposition their brand, could that then completely backfire, or should they have a safety net? How would they approach that risk?
There's a really fun way to have a safety net if you want to try like a major brand pivot, or you want to do it as a test but you don't want to bet the farm. The most beautiful part about that is the internet is a very big place. So if you want to just create a new brand and throw it up on a new domain and start, marketing directly to that audience using that new audience specific brand, you actually don't have to do anything with your remnant brand, with your existing brand. So like I can go create a new version of FTF that's just for NFT marketing, and it won't have to have anything to do with FTF.co. I can put it on, NFTs from the NFTs of the future or something. I can go completely outside of it and reduce all of the business risk.
I honestly see NFTs everywhere, all over my Twitter. I don't know if it's led by you, but everything, all I'm seeing is all about it. It's crazy.
Everybody listening to this should go buy a Lazy Lion right now if you haven't already. Very, very important detail.
There we go. I love it. So we've been cut off at 35, 40 minutes before on Twitter Spaces, so I'm not going to risk it because it's been amazing. So are there any final words of wisdom for businesses out there looking to strengthen their position within the market?
Identify who your best customers are, either by revenue, or honestly, more times than not, usually by headaches. Like, who are the types of businesses that your agency, or you, if you're a freelancer and you're listening to this, that you enjoy working with the most, that you seem to retain the longest, that are the easiest to work with, where your strategies seem to deploy and be the most effective? And if you can identify those patterns, have as many conversations with people who do that as you possibly can. Pay people like who aren't like who are the ideal, or in the ideal roles that you would potentially be selling into. So if you're an agency, maybe it's a CMO or a director of marketing, a marketing manager, an SEO manager. Like, forge those relationships, offer value, send gift cards, send free coffee, send beer. Just have conversations. You have enough conversations, patterns will start to emerge that will give you incredible insight onto how you should think about messaging your brand position.
Perfect. Amazing. Well, thank you, Nick, so much for joining us today. It's been a great chat.
Thank you so much, Sophie. I hope I didn't talk too fast. I know I've been rambling for a while here.
No, people normally say I'm the one who talks too quickly, so that's perfect.
I think this is a good cadence then together. Yeah, we'll have to do this again.
Definitely, that would be amazing. Well, thank you everyone for listening in as well. Keep an eye out on our socials for the next Twitter Spaces event and our next guest speaker. But again, thank you, Nick, for joining, and I'm sure we'll do this again soon.
Thanks so much, Sophie. Take care.
Take care. Bye-bye.